Welcome to episode 200 of the Daniel Yoris podcast. We made it. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. This is episode 200. And what a ride it's been. A little under 4 years, coming up in a couple of weeks. And a lot of stuff has happened. Obviously, a lot of, personal things have happened in as far as business, as far as growth, as far as, regular life stuff as well. But we've grown a lot together. We've learned a lot together, and here we are, 200 in, and maybe 2,000 plus more to go. So come a long way, but also in some ways, in many ways, just the beginning. So this episode is going to be, a little bit reflection kind of stuff over some lessons and whatever of the last 200 episodes. As well as a number of questions, Q&A stuff on actual fitness stuff and others that I took from Instagram and from Twitter or X, and we'll get through all of that. But 200 episodes, yeah, wow. In some ways, again, it's amazing that, and people say this to me, and I think I've said this on the pod before, but it's amazing to get through 200 episodes. But at the same time, all I've done is exactly what I said I would do, which is commit to the process of publishing podcast episodes that are both informative and entertaining and enjoyable for myself and for you as a listener, and do that pretty much every single week forever. and so since then, forever, we've kept up with that. I actually think. So for the first time this past summer, there was like a 2-week period where I didn't publish an episode. But I had published more than that. So like we're still on an average of 1 episode a week. And the plan for next year, or for this year rather, for 2025 is to up the cadence a little bit, kind of go on like a 1.5 episode per week average. And the way that I think I'll do that is kind of get guest episodes out every week, and then have solo episodes out every other week that are maybe a little bit shorter, some of them probably a little bit longer, a mix of the quarterly Q&As that you're used to, as well as the more deep dive informative stuff that comes from the solo episodes that you're used to, just a little bit higher frequency of that. So there's definitely something to like calling your shot and then making it happen. And something that happened with this recently that I made a note of, and this is a thing that I've been doing, and it's a great exercise. I kind of relearned it in a way from a friend recently. But when you start like creating content, there's a lot of things that you have to say. Like you post on Instagram or Twitter or whatever every single day, and podcast every single week. Like there are 200 episodes now, so that's at least 200 hours. I'm not talking the whole time, but like there's a lot of time of me talking and saying things and sharing stories and lessons and whatever, and many, many more to come. But you start like taking note of things that happen in your life, and like, oh, this can connect to this thing, and this piece can connect to here. This can be, switched around into some sort of fitness lesson, or this would be an interesting thing to share. And I was talking to someone about I was talking to one of the sisters, one of the nuns at the church that we go to, which has been a thing that has found its way back into my life a little bit more. Excuse me, as I approach getting married, which I'll talk about in a little bit because it's relevant. Anyways, we were just talking about wow, not good to be having a voice mashup during this episode, but I was talking with her about some of the like the wedding logistic things and like how complicated some of the contracts are. Like for those who don't know, like when you get married now, like the contracts are unbelievable. Like for the flowers of our contract, for the flowers for our wedding rather, it's like a 13-page contract. And I'm not talking about the amount of money. Like that is a whole separate discussion, and you've probably heard me rant about that before. But the contract alone, it's like a 13-page contract, like for flowers. Like this is not that complicated. I give you money, you give me flowers, and like that's all there is to it. But there's 13 pages of stuff. And she goes, it's because we don't have our logos anymore. Our word, logos, the Greek word for the word and your honor. And I said, yeah, that's right, because back in the day, you would say, yes, I give you money, you give me flowers. great, see you on the day. And that was it. And now we have to have all this legal stuff in the way because no one can trust anyone anymore. And that's not a good thing. And that's a sad thing in the world for many, many reasons, but it's also very true of ourselves. So when I think about this podcast, I called the shot. I said, hey, I'm starting this in whatever it was, February of 2021. Here we are in January of 2025. And I'm going to do this for a long time. I'm not expecting crazy tangible results right away. And that can be in many forms. Call it money is the easiest way, which to this day I've made precisely $0 directly off the podcast. And that's totally fine and not that's kind of by design. Yes, growth in followers, growth in listeners, and all of that stuff. But I wasn't planning on like, hey, if I don't make crazy money and become the next Joe Rogan or Chris Williamson, if I don't do that in the next 3 months, then I'm out. Like, no, this was like, hey, this takes a long time. I want to do this. I'm willing to put in the time and the effort it takes to make it happen, whatever that looks like. And we're going to do that by doing 1 episode a week of the best quality that I can muster. And we did that. And so there's a huge connection to keeping the word that you make to yourself. Forget all the, I started this with the analogy of the wedding stuff, whatever, but that's with making deals with other people, making promises to other people. It's equally important, if not more important, to keep the promises that you make to yourself. And that is with your fitness, with your finances, with your family, with the people in your life that you need to show up for. And again, just for yourself. You say that you're going to get to the gym 3 times a week in January. Get to the fucking gym 3 times a week in January. Like, maybe this can't happen because, some snowstorm or something happened, but like, you work out at home, you do your push-ups at home, like, make the commitment to yourself and then follow through on your word. There's that quote from the great movie Scarface, which I'm afraid that far too many people don't know this movie, which is wild to me. But Tony Montana, the gangster in the movie, says, there's only 2 things in this world that I got, and I don't break them for nobody. And that's my word and my balls. And while it's funny and a phenomenal movie, very true. Don't break the word that you make to other people, and don't break the promises that you make to yourself. You do those things, and things are going to work out for you. So that now on the topic of the wedding that I just wanted to this is involved with the whole episode 200, let's just say, of some reflections and things that have been going on. It's taken me like 2.5 weeks to record this. If you're watching on YouTube, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I am recording in a new studio. Obviously, I pray that this looks way better than it has in the past. And if you're not watching on YouTube, go on YouTube, check it out. You'll see it on the clips and stuff on social media, but please check it out on YouTube, give a follow there, and like and all that kind of stuff. But so I've moved. I'm getting married, so that's a big deal. That's a couple weeks away, and so there's just been a lot of like those 2 things alone. There's like a lot of things going on, and so this new studio has been quite an adventure to make, and getting some new lighting and trying to set it up. And we've got some things in some fun things in the background, like a little on this side. I've got a kettlebell. Yes, that is Simba up there on the kettlebell, kind of like the top of Pride Rock. A little couple plants. And a few books back here that have been influential in my life, like this first one, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Phenomenal book on leadership, and it actually falls in line with like keeping the word to yourself. Extreme ownership with others in your team, but extreme ownership with yourself. Above that, actually, I'm still making my way through that, but we'll come back to some of the topics in that. But it's a book called How to Think Like Socrates, which has been phenomenal so far. The next is one that I've read multiple times, but it's the story or biography of Alexander the Great, and then the one on top there is the Book of 5 Rings by the samurai Miyamoto Musashi. All books that I've read and learned a ton from, and shape a lot of the way that I think in various ways. But yeah, so we're in a new studio. So thanks for rolling with me on like the shitty video quality in the other one. There are 3 or maybe 4 episodes, I can't remember right off the top of my head now, with guests that have been pre-recorded in that old place. That will still drip out. And then after that, February onwards, basically, all episodes will be done in here with guests and with myself. yeah, so thank you, to bearing with that. But this is a sign of just, upgrading and getting the new stuff and making the show go forward as far as like the actual content of what I'm saying and the guests that I'm bringing on and the conversations that we're having and the quality of those conversations, but also the visual aspect of this and the audio should be the same. I mean, it's going to sound, I spent a ton of effort when I first started this, knowing nothing about video, about audio, about podcasting, about anything. I spent like almost a week, seriously, trying to figure out how to make the audio sound good. And I'm very, very extremely proud of how my audio sounds. And like, once you figure it out, it's really easy from there. It's not a lot of work. It's the same set of button pushing after that, but a lot of work to set up. Kind of the same with the video. So shout out to my fiance for putting up with this and my family and a couple of close friends and stuff for like having me send them variations of video clips that are literally 1% differences on certain settings that are frankly indistinguishable to anyone but me who is hyper focused on it. And me asking them like, hey, what do you think of this? This one, should I change this? And they're like, it probably doesn't matter. And they're probably right. But when it's yours, you want it to be right. And so all that being said, there's a concept that I've spoken about before very briefly, and it's that there is utility in beauty. And this is something that I heard from Chris Williamson, actually. I'm not sure if it was on his Twitter or on his podcast or whatever, and it's been something that's been deeply, like, I've been thinking about it a lot more. And when trying to, design this little studio space, I'm aware that it's not perfect and it could be much better. You get better cameras, better lights, a dedicated space. Like, this is still in my, workspace office, and I've still got to set up and take down kind of most of this stuff each time, which is fine. But there's levels to this. You still want to make things look good, and that goes for yourself as well. And this is about building your body and the way that you dress and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you present yourself and all these kind of things. And I've also been figuring this out more with the weddings as we deal with suits and, flower arrangements, which is not really my thing. But then it's like you start thinking, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, like, let's do it right. Like, we don't just need flowers on the table for the sake of flowers. Like, we don't need to wear a suit or a tuxedo because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, if we're going to do this, like, let's make it right. Let's make it beautiful. Let's make it look good. I spent an ungodly amount of time looking for shoes for myself for the wedding. And I know that sounds so strange, but the reason is because I got into this rabbit hole of like men's formal wear, which I'm not like a fashionista guy. Went down this rabbit hole of men's formal wear and found, okay, these are like the type of shoes, the type of laces, the design or lack of design rather on the shoe and all this kind of stuff. And I said, okay, that's basically like the most classic, simplest dress shoe you can imagine. Like, let me go buy that, assuming it would be like every single, men's dress store, menswear store would have this. And like nobody had it. And it was baffling my mind. Then it just became a challenge of stubbornness in myself to be like, okay, now I'm determined to find this because of the tradition, because of what you're supposed to wear as far as like the formality of the dress wear and all this kind of stuff. And again, there is some utility in beauty, and there are minor details and of the way you dress. And again, the way that the thing looks and the way that things are presented. If this looks better, maybe someone else listens to the message a little bit better. If the podcast visually looks better, the clips are a little bit better, the audio is a little bit better, the aesthetic of the things are a little bit more beautiful, maybe that makes the actual message, the actual content, the stuff that matters deeply and matters frankly much more, maybe it makes it hit a little bit more. And maybe that's the thing that pulls someone in and gets you to, change your life and start going to the gym and start eating healthier and start doing all the things. So there is utility in beauty, and I've been coming around to it much more in my professional life with the podcast and with social media ish, and just thinking about it a lot more, but as well as in my personal life, and just something I think that you should chew on here as well. One last thought this is going to be a longer episode, by the way. I'm not going to try and pretend that this is going to be short. I've got a lot of just rambling things to say. One last thought with like some of the wedding stuff and the suits. It's been a funny experience because the tailor that we used for myself and for the groomsmen, he's an awesome guy. And if you live in like Vaughan or the GTA, send me a message if you're looking for good stuff. Like, this guy's phenomenal. But he's been kind of like really like gassing us up, like myself and the groomsmen, for being in such good shape, because it's different. He said it's actually more difficult to make a suit for someone who's in shape, and only because the proportions are like atypical, because the typical average person is like not at all in shape, and so it's a little bit easier, and there's not as much shape to their body. It's just kind of things just drape down and whatever. But in worrying about someone who has like bigger shoulders and a smaller waist and bigger biceps and bigger maybe calves or thighs, like there's more considerations. And again, I'm not going to pretend to understand the intricacies of the tailoring. I'm just kind of parroting what he said. But it's been funny, him gassing us up, and he puts the jacket on, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are in phenomenal shape." And so it's been hilarious, but also really rewarding. Obviously I work hard on myself and keep myself in good shape, and yes, I could be in way better shape, and that is part of the whole like utility and beauty thing as well. Like, if I was a little leaner, bigger, all those things, that would help a lot too, and working on that. But even for my groomsmen, who are all obviously people who are extremely important to me, that I've helped with their own fitness and whatever, and getting them prepared for their own life and whatever. But seeing it appreciated by someone else, and someone who frankly sees like a lot of bodies and a lot of shapes and can understand measurements and the way that things look on certain people, means a lot. So there's a lot of good work done there. But it's been interesting, because he always says like, it's harder to make suits for people who are in shape, but it looks way better, because the thing that's most important about it is the suit is highlighting the shape of your body. And when your body is like, in his words, a blob, like there's no shape to define there. So we're trying to hide things rather than accentuate them. With someone who's in shape, it's like we can make this fit properly the way the suit is supposed to fit, and shows your shoulders and your arms and your small waist and these kind of things. So again, utility and beauty, there's definitely something to it, and it's cool when things get noticed like that. So I'll say this as one other thing. There's one thing that I just kind of wanted to, because a couple people asked about it. The hardest part about getting to 200 episodes is it's just showing up all the time. It's the constantness of it. Podcasting is phenomenal, but it's a lot. I don't want to say it's a lot of effort. Like anything is a lot of effort. That's not even a thing. But it's that you can't get so far ahead, and it's especially when you're like a one-man team. Like, it's not like I have a team of people to coordinate with guests, figure out any studio tech stuff. Like, I have a shout out to Dom, who is working as like he helps me with the clips, and so we'll work back and forth on taking some of the best moments, or what we think are the best moments from some of the episodes to put on social media as like kind of promotion. But other than that, like, it's a one-man show, so I'm doing all the stuff, and that's great, and that's how I want it. But you get 4 or 5 episodes ahead, and then you kind of think you can take a break, and then 4 or 5 episodes or 4 or 5 weeks flies by, and then you got to get more, and it's just a constant. So the constantness of it, the consistency of it, is actually the hardest part. That, and then for like any solo episodes and even some of the guest episodes, it's easier with the guest episodes because you're being held accountable like by that person who's expecting you to show up and be there. It's getting in the right like mindset and just frame, right energy to be sitting here talking to myself or talking with a guest, and make sure that I'm both prepared for the conversation that we're about to have and have good energy and all those things. So the consistency of it is the hardest piece. I mean, I've done phenomenally well. I've done exactly what I said I was going to do exactly. But that is the hardest part. So if anyone is like considering starting a podcast, and I'm not going to talk about this very long, like please message me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But there's a a lot of work and a lot of consistency for a long time with like very little tangible reward. There's a huge reward, but very little tangible, and it takes a long time. The best part about getting to 200 episodes is it's the networking and the connecting with other people that for me personally, that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to speak with. Like, again, I've said this before, but call someone and be like, hey, or message someone and say, hey, here, my name's Daniel. I'm a trainer. Can I talk to you on the phone for an hour? And like, what the fuck, who are you? Like, no. But to say, hey, I'm Daniel. I have a podcast. I've got, 200 episodes of this many, whatever. Like, oh yeah, sure. We can do that. And it's kind of the same thing, really. But you get to connect and network with some amazing, amazing people. So that has been phenomenal for both personal and business growth. Excuse me. And number two is just like all of the people like yourself listening who have been able to help through the podcast with your own fitness and health. And you get messages from people like the podcasting. There's not a lot of direct feedback. Like you put a post on Instagram or on Twitter and you get likes and replies and stuff like that. You put a podcast out and like I can see how many people have listened or downloaded to the episode and that stuff, but there's no like likes and comments. And so there's a lot less like direct feedback as far as knowing, well, do people even enjoy this? Are people liking this? But you get messages from people, which means they go out of their way to message you to say, hey, I listened to episode, whatever number, whatever. And you said this thing, or the guest said this thing, and that was, really powerful for me because I've been thinking about XYZ, or I've been struggling with, ABC. I've been struggling with these things, and like you really cleared that up. And so that's like, oh damn, like that's what this is all about. Like that's what I meant for this to be. So that's the most important thing. So that's really the best feeling, because when it's having the intended effect, which is trying to help people, and you get that confirmation that you are doing that, then that is by far the most special thing. So everyone who's ever sent me a message to say like, hey, I'm really enjoying the show, or I've learned such and such, thank you. Everyone who's ever left a review saying kind of the same stuff, thank you very much. And everyone who's just ever listened or shared an episode, it's been quite a ride. So yeah, maybe I'll stop rambling a little bit about these things now. There is one, maybe, let me see what the questions are. No. So here's something that I actually do want you to think about. And this is what was related to that How to Think Like Socrates book. This is a quote that I want you to take into this year and ponder and think about. And this is like, this quote is the background on my phone. It's something that I've talked about before many times. If you follow me on Instagram, it embodies a lot of the way that I think about fitness and health and training and talking about the utility and beauty. And this is how it's all like, I've known this quote for many, many years, but it's kind of wrapping up and becoming more full circle. But it's a quote by by Socrates. And the quote is as such: "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without witnessing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable." And he said that, 2,500 years ago, wherever it is. Pretty powerful stuff, I think. This doesn't mean become the most, biggest, fastest person in the world, or any of that kind of stuff, but take care of yourself. Like build your body, become physically capable as much as possible. It is anyone who's gone through any type of fitness transformation, and even if it's not like some wild transformation, but you've got stronger in the gym, you lost a few pounds that you put on since high school or whatever. That's a phenomenal feeling. So what happens if you scale that feeling up? What happens if you make yourself even stronger, even in better shape, even a better physique? Like, it's amazing. And there's no real end to that. Like, I've experienced that, and I will continue to experience that as everything continues to improve. So think about that seriously, and take that energy into 2025, and let that guide you. If you're ever wondering or looking for some additional motivation, it's a shame to grow old without witnessing the strength and beauty of which your body is capable, because it's capable of a lot. Okay, let's get into some questions, and I'll probably have some more. How much are we in? 25 minutes in here? That's fine. I'll get into some of the questions that I took from you guys for this Q&A-ish episode, which we're due for anyways. And I'll probably have some other ramblings and stuff in between. 1, for your audience building, what has been most effective to least effective? Podcast, in person, IG, etc. Like, it's hard to say because it's hard to track, and it all kind of helps it. Like, it's so intertwined. The podcast has been phenomenal for growing like authority, I would say, because anyone can anyone can have an Instagram account or a Twitter account or a TikTok account, especially, and like gain followers and sound like you know what you're doing. It's very hard to hide in a podcast where, you know, anyone can sound smart for 15 seconds on a reel or a 200 character tweet. Much harder to do that in 200 hours plus of talking. So the podcast is really good for that. Obviously, Instagram or social media is good for growing the show and getting awareness and the clips and connecting with other people and that kind of stuff. Because podcasts, there's not like a feed. You don't like log into the podcast app and there's just like a feed or explore page type of thing to find new stuff. So you use social media to find that. And then in person, just through like my personal connections and people that I meet and whatever, like that definitely helps. Again, having the podcast lends a little bit more credibility to that. So I'm not really sure that I'm answering the question here, but what's been most effective to least effective? Like probably the podcast is honestly the most effective. It's also the most work and the least like tangible to notice that it's being effective, but it's probably the most effective. Then social media is second, and then in person would be the least effective. But it's not that in-person connections are least effective. It's just that there's a lower volume of them. Like I only meet and talk to in real life so many people per day. Like on social media, you can access a lot more people, so the numbers are greater there for audience building. Like I might meet people in social media. Like not most. Let me think. 0 of my in-person clients even have social media. And it's not because they're older people. Some of them are older and they just don't, but like some of them are younger. They just don't have, they didn't find me through social media. They didn't. So it doesn't give a return back to that in any way. So like definitely leverage your in-person. It's just a lower volume game. That's all it is. In social media, you get more volume. So yeah, do it all. Podcast, long form content, that's king because you can't hide. It builds the most authority and allows you to deliver the best message because you're not as much constrained by like time and character counts and that kind of stuff. So that, I guess. 2, we get some actual fitness stuff. Any advice on getting your body to look a certain way once hitting your goal weight? Yes. Getting your body to look a certain way is mostly about building muscle. And the reason for that is because muscle is what gives your body shape. You've probably heard the phrase skinny fat. And what that refers to is someone who is small, like physically small, but maybe they have a little bit of a belly still, but they just don't look muscular or like they're in good shape. Their body, they're just small. This person's body doesn't really have a shape to say. They wear a tight t-shirt or a proper fitting suit jacket or something like that. They're not going to look good the way that you want to look because their body has no shape. Muscle is what gives your body shape. So this is why we think about like having an ideal weight is a good thing to aim at. It's very tangible. It's very easy to track and monitor and all that stuff. But what you're really going for is like an ideal look. It's just that's hard to quantify. So you want to get your body fat sufficiently down, and then you want to build muscle, and that is what is going to make your body look a certain way. For health purposes, you'll want to lose the body weight first, get lean first and then build muscle after, and building muscle is a much slower and frankly more difficult to process. But you don't have to, like, you might have to lose 50 pounds to get down to your ideal weight or goal body composition type of thing. You don't have to build 50 pounds of muscle. You might have to build like 10 pounds of muscle, which still takes a lot of time. Don't get me wrong, but it's a way to, like, less transformation of your whole body. A little bit of muscle on your frame goes a really long way. So getting your body to look a certain way is all about building muscle, and that's what gives your body shape and structure. And this is why just doing cardio and not eating is not like a great overall strategy, and people will lose a ton of weight and then still look and feel like shit. It's like, well, maybe you look better. I don't want to say look like shit, but you look better, but you don't look the way that you thought you'd look when you got down to 140 pounds or 175 pounds or whatever your goal weight is. It's because your body has no shape. Muscle gives your body shape, and that's why you've got to get lean first, then build muscle. That's going to give you the look that you're actually looking for, both wearing clothes and when you're naked. So the advice is 1, be patient. 2, get lean first, get down to that goal weight, and then 3, then we work on building muscle. And the person that this question came from, he is well on the way to that anyway. So you keep it up. You know who you are, and it's gonna get there. Anything else I have to say on that? No. Maybe later. Number 3. What is the ideal split of weights and running to lean out while maintaining muscle? Let me preface this by saying people seem to be obsessed with workout splits. And like, there's so many questions online about what's the best workout split for this? Is PPL better? Is bro split better? Is upper lower better? Full body better? Like I understand where the question is coming from. And it's because we've all been fooled by marketing of like, my system is the best, and my system uses a push-pull leg split and it's better, and my system uses a full body split and it's better because of XYZ. It's like, it doesn't really matter. The thing that determines your split, and I know I'm off topic of the actual question, I'll get back to it. The thing that determines your actual split is your life schedule. You can train 3 days a week, great. Do that first, and then you figure out, okay, well, what do I want to focus on? What are the body parts that I want to focus on, which is all of them, but is there anything that I want to prioritize? What type of training do I want to do? What are my goals? And then you just, the plan, the body part split, like, it falls in line with that. Ideally, you want to kind of try and hit everything twice a week. So if you're only training twice a week, probably just going to do full body. If you're going 3 days a week, you could do push-pull legs, but then you're only hitting everything once a week. So maybe that's great if you're lifting super heavy and like kind of more powerlifting style and your goal is just like pure strength, fine. If you want a little bit more hypertrophy, you're going to have to up that frequency. So you might go upper, lower, full. If you don't want to care about your legs, maybe you go upper, lower, upper, with a different focus on like an upper 1, upper 2, like different focus on those days. Anyways, and I can keep going, and I've talked about this before, but like the split is more about your schedule and your goals rather than like this split is the best one for everyone. Like, it just, there isn't, because everyone has different goals and different schedules and different stuff going on. So that, but anyways, ideal split of running, and lifting weights to lean out while maintaining muscle. There's one thing that is already flawed with your question as I read it the second time. You do not need to run to lean out. You do not need to do cardio to lean out. It is good. It is helpful. You should be doing cardio, but the reason you do cardio is not to get leaner. The reason you do cardio is to train your heart and your cardiovascular system. That is what it does. Cardio has a great side effect of burning calories. So does lifting weights. And frankly, so does taking a shit. Everything you do burns calories. So you could make the argument that like anything that burns calories is for getting leaner, which is not true, because everything you do just burns calories. So yes, cardio is great, and you can definitely up the volume of it to burn more calories through the week as you walk more and all that stuff. But it's like the 7th best thing about doing cardio. So first and foremost, let's establish that you do not need to run to lean out. And cardio doesn't make you lose muscle mass. You lose muscle mass when you're in a very deep calorie deficit and you don't resistance train at all, and you don't eat enough protein. So if you're not doing that, then doing cardio is not going to make you lose muscle. It's just the way it is. Argue with science if you don't believe me. To get to your actual question, it still comes back to the goal that you have. If your goal is trying to lean out, you could do like a 50-50 split of running and lifting weights. And that means if you're training 4 times a week, maybe you run twice a week and maybe you lift twice a week. The reality is it doesn't actually matter. You just want to make sure that you are both lifting at least once a week and running, if that's a thing that you want to do, at least once a week. And then the actual ideal split doesn't really matter. Make sure that your protein is high. Make sure that you lift heavy and with intensity when you do lift. And that's it. Don't worry about losing muscle mass if you're eating enough protein and strength training. That's all there is to it. So this is part of the reason why I really wanted to start this podcast, is because that message that doesn't come off. I haven't yet figured out how to make like a social media post where you can explain that and like, hey, this doesn't matter. This is like a lot of confusion from like marketing hype and stuff. That's like, okay, here's the truth of what's going on, but blah, 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 all the stuff I just explained. Like, that's so boring. I can't fit that into 9 seconds in like an exciting way. And maybe that's because I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. And maybe because there's not a good way to do that. But the podcast gives us the space and the flexibility to actually, sit down and explain that, and hopefully in a way that makes sense. Because it's very confusing. And so when I say that, like, hey, your question doesn't really make sense, or you're thinking about this wrong, I'm not saying this in a way that's like, in no way do I mean to be demeaning you, because how would you know that? The same way I don't know everything about whatever it is that your job is. I don't know everything about being an accountant or a lawyer or, a painter or whatever it is that you do for work. I don't know what you do. And so why would you know everything about like all the nuances and have all this background context of information of science and just like the landscape of fitness and the way that things are? You wouldn't. And so I'm not in any way blaming you, but I'm trying to explain that, like, hey, this is why you start to think that way. And it's just incorrect. You always have to think like, what is this? This is not that hard. Fitness is like, it's very difficult to execute, but it's not that complicated. And so when people are saying this is the best thing, this is the right way to do it, this is the optimal blah, 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 like maybe, but if that was true, then every single person would just do that and this would be a solved problem. Every single person would be fit, jacked, and healthy and lean. And that would be the end of it. But obviously everyone is not. And so whatever this person is claiming is like, this is the right way, or there is only one way, or there is a right way, it's just wrong. It's flat out just wrong. And I get it. It's marketing and whatever. And this is why I don't have as much money as I should. And it's why I have an amazing group of clients, but I don't have thousands of clients. And this is why my podcast is amazing, but I don't have millions of followers, because I don't fall into these things. And maybe that's my fault, and maybe I don't play into it enough. And I don't know. Maybe now I'm just ranting and getting a little upset. Not upset, but just ranting. But it's part of playing the game. And it kind of, I guess, ties into the whole like utility and beauty thing as well. But you have to understand that like there is just no right answer. There is no like, hey, this is the best one. This is the right thing. This is the only way to do it. If you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. It just doesn't exist. Everything is going to be in the context of your own life and your own situation, your own goals and your own injuries and drawbacks and all the stuff that you have going on in your life. Everything has to be filtered through that lens. And that's why one-on-one coaching is really good. And that's why, group classes and group programming is like fine, but like not always the best thing. I'm not opposed to those things. It's just like, hey, you can't expect that a program that's being written for everyone is necessarily going to be the perfect program for you. It could just be lucky, but chances are it's not, because you have to consider a lot of things when you build a program for a lot of people, and you can't consider any individual needs. So yeah, what's the ideal split of weights and running to lean out? But do them both once a week, do them both intensely, eat a lot of protein. You'll get leaner. You probably won't get that much stronger, but you'll get stronger a little bit. Your running will probably improve and you'll get leaner. And that's the ideal split. Do them both once a week at least. And then from there, doesn't really matter. Number 4, what are your goals for fitness and for the podcast for 2025? So podcast, it's so hard to forecast like number of listens and followers and stuff. With this new little visual setup, I would love to see a bit of a bigger push on YouTube. I'd say an ambitious, but not terribly out of reach goal would be like get to like maybe 1,000 subs on YouTube, which honestly, that sounds so little to say, but, cause like who cares about 1,000 subs, but, like we're pretty far away from that, but it's also cause like I just haven't prioritized that. The podcast hasn't been optimized for YouTube in any way as far as like video production quality and as far as like all the other YouTube stuff. So I'll try and make a little bit of push there. But I want to say the Spotify number was like 80 something % of people found the show this year on Spotify, which is huge. And it's been something like that every year. So the show is growing like exponentially, right? 86% of 100, then 86% of 1,000, then 86% of whatever. So keep up that rate because it's similar rate, but like also going faster and faster. So that as far as like action steps, 1.5 episodes per week is kind of like the rough goal. Like for sure 1 per week, but so my wedding is end of January, so definitely not until then. But like after that, now I have this new setup and stuff. Like I'll try and pump out some more just a little bit more frequency, and just continue to make it beautiful, get bigger and better guests, and that's the thing. Again, the podcast is really a long game, so there's not too many like short term things, but would love to just keep growing it that way. For my own fitness, I did record one podcast where we talked about this a little bit more with my friend John that I've kind of done the same strategy conversation before. My goal this year really is to just stay healthy. I need to stop getting injured because that is a thing that derails everything else. I say, okay, I want to get leaner. I want to get this. I want to get that. I want to get super shredded. And I do want all those things. And this is like, that is still kind of like the goal. And I'm well on the way and I'm like doing fine. But the thing that derails me is just injuries. Like I had 2 significant injuries last year. One the year before, one that was more significant the year before. And it's like, I just can't get a string of like 12 months of solid training with no injuries, knock on wood that I'm doing okay right now. I'm like maybe, not even, I don't know, I'm like 3 months since the last injury, really. So like fine. But, yeah, like it's, for me, it's just staying healthy. If I can just stay healthy, then everything else will fall into line, and I know that about myself. So it's hard to say that I have like I don't have a real fitness goal. Honestly, it's just like I'm decently happy with my body. I'd like to get a little bit leaner, I'd like to get a little bit bigger. But if I just stay healthy and stick to my regular training plan, then I know that will happen. So I guess the plan is like if I do get injured, I just need to do a better job of sticking to the rest of the plan while healing from that injury, which is a tough thing to do. But that will be that's really my goal. I know that's not super exciting. But it is that is what it is. Those are my goals. How much time are we in? We're about 45 in. Okay, we'll keep going. How much do you think genetics matters? What are your best and worst features due to genetics? Interesting question. Genetics matter a lot and also simultaneously not at all. The reason genetics matters a lot is because it will determine, your limits, and 2, the things that you are like better at or more predisposed to. The most classic example is calves. Like if you're not born with great calf genetics, like you're probably just not going to have amazingly huge calves. Maybe. Same with your propensity to build muscle or metabolize certain foods or things like that. The reason genetics don't matter at all is because you can't change it. Like whether you find out or determine that you have good or bad genetics for one thing or the other, like what are you going to do about that? Nothing. You still have to train hard. You still have to eat right. You still have to do all of the things that you would do otherwise. You'll just either get better or worse results at that thing by like a slight margin. And for what it's worth, if you are listening to this and you even remotely enjoy strength training, you already have amazing genetics for strength training and fitness. You know how many people out there don't give a shit at all about their fitness, or they completely hate going to the gym and exercising? They just like don't feel like it. Most people are like that. So if you even remotely like this stuff and enjoy it and do it and engage in the activities and listen to information like this about it, you are miles ahead of what the average person is out there. Now, maybe you don't have as good genetics as Chris Bumstead for building muscle and for whatever, but you're also not trying to be that. And so when we talk about how much your genetics matters, like almost nobody is tapping out their actual genetic potential. So this is another one of those reasons why it doesn't really matter. Like, okay, your genetic limit for building muscle is for you to be XYZ pounds. You're not going to hit that anyways. So yeah, it matters, but just like not that much because you're not going to do anything about it anyways. So I would say this. Take the hand that you were dealt and just make the best deal that you can with that, because you can't change anything about it. Train hard, eat right, get your lifestyle dialed in, do all those things, and then whatever else happens, it happens. Maybe you have to adjust for some certain things. Like for myself, I guess the second part of this question, my personal best and worst features. By far the worst is that I get injured all the time. My body is just not extremely resilient for whatever reason, soft tissue injuries and random shit. Okay, that is just the hand that I was dealt, and it is what it is. What am I going to do about it? I train a little harder. I pay a little bit more attention to my recovery and my mobility, and I'm very aware of my injuries, and I've gotten very good at recovering from injuries. And there's a bunch of random little things that I do in my own training and my own lifestyle that like I do to help with that. But I can't just stop that. And so my worst feature is that I get injured, and that makes me knock off track and all that stuff. Best feature, I don't know, is that I like this. I think that is actually the best feature that I have. I don't even believe in this real term hard gainer. I think people just like don't eat enough and like don't train hard enough. And so it's not that your genetics are the problem. It's just that your process and your effort is the problem. But I feel like I don't really have trouble gaining muscle when I am trying to do so. I think my strength is pretty good compared to my size, I would say, and like the amount of training and stuff that I've done. But I don't think that's like, I don't think I'm genetically superior in any way. If anything, I wouldn't, above average for sure, because average is extremely low, but among like trainers and strong people, like below that, whatever the average of that is, for sure. So the best genetic feature is that I like this, and the same would be for you. You can say, oh, I've got just like naturally big shoulders, or you've got naturally big biceps, or okay, maybe, big forearms, big whatever. Okay, cool. The most important thing is that you like this, because that makes you actually show up and do it and train hard and try hard and try to get better. Because if you didn't have the gene that makes you like this and feel good from doing all this stuff, you wouldn't even be doing any of it. And it doesn't matter how big your shoulders are naturally. The rest of you would just not be big or strong or trained at all. So the best genetic factor is that you enjoy this. Next question, should I bulk or cut? You should not dirty bulk, and I've done a whole podcast episode on this. Please never do that. It is useful for precisely nobody who is not a professional bodybuilder, and that is that. The way to do things is to cut down, lose body fat, get lean, and then main gain for forever. Or do a bit of a lean bulk, where you're very slightly eating above maintenance, training hard, trying to build muscle, And then you kind of just do that for forever. You stay about 4 to 6 weeks away from doing a little bit of a cut so you can kind of get beach ready or summer ready. But you never, ever, ever dirty bulk. Okay? Thank you. Yeah, obviously no context to that question. So I have no idea. But yeah, don't dirty bulk. Just a dumb idea. You're going to gain more fat. It's harder to lose that fat after. Fucks up your body a little bit. It's just not worth it in any way. Time-saving tips. Question number 7. Time-saving tips is not a question, by the way. That is just a sentence. It's an incomplete sentence. Your grade 2 teacher would say, put a question mark beside it and say, incomplete. Time-saving tips. I'll say this. Some of my best clients actually in 2024, or by best, I mean clients who got the best results for themselves, worked out the shortest amount of time per workout, but also their frequency was the highest. So these are people who are working out 30 minutes a day, but every single day or 6 days a week. Frequency, showing up for yourself, that is the biggest thing. You need to make this whole workout, fitness, everything. It needs to just be part of who you do and what you are, part of what you do and who you are. And that means showing up every single day, even if it's just a walk, even if it's just a stretch, even if it's just, 50 push-ups in your bedroom. Show up every single day. So time-saving tips, actual time-saving tips. 1, your workouts don't have to be so long. So get out of the idea that your workouts have to be an hour or an hour and a half. They can be, and that's great. It's beautiful, but it doesn't have to be. 30 minutes a day is great. Your biggest exercise are the things that matter the most for moving the needle the most. Biggest exercise being your compound lifts, your squats, your bench presses, your shoulder presses, your pull-ups, your deadlifts, your RDLs, your hip thrusts, maybe dips, those kind of big exercises with heavy weights. A whole workout doesn't have to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 exercises. A whole workout can be literally 2 exercises. Use squats and pull-ups. That's it. Boom. Exercise or workout done. Beautiful. You do that every single week with intensity, you're going to get some solid results. So pick exercises that are big bang for your buck as far as time, bang for your time, I guess. And those are going to be your big compound exercises. Hit them hard, hit them often. That's the biggest time-saving thing. Secondary to that is, and this is tough, especially being January, and especially if you're in commercial gym settings, is using supersets intelligently where you're pairing up an exercise. Squats and pull-ups would be a good example because they're effectively non-competing. You're not really using the same muscle groups to any major extent. So you can just do them back to back and you'll save time that way rather than doing, 5 sets of squats and then 5 sets of pull-ups. You do it all in one as a superset. But tough to do in commercial gyms, especially. You got to be smart about the exercises that you choose so that they're using either the same or similar piece of equipment or one piece of equipment and one just floor space. You want to do squats and some ab exercise on the ground, something like that. But those are the biggest 2 time-saving tips. So I have a bunch of clients now who are their workouts are only 30 to 45 minutes long, kind of max, and they're doing phenomenally well. And it's because they can just stick to that. So get out of the idea that your workouts have to be so long. Cut the workouts down, cut the volume down, keep the intensity way up. And that's really going to be the thing that moves the needle an absolute ton for you. We'll get to 2 more questions that'll take us to about an hour and we'll be solid there. What podcasts and YouTube channels do you listen to? So I've talked about it a bit, but probably the podcast I listen to the most frequently right now is Chris Williamson's podcast, the Modern Wisdom podcast. I think he's a great interviewer. I take a lot of just podcasting insights from him. I think he spends probably the most time and money on getting beautiful visual setups and stuff like that. The guests he's able to get is phenomenal. The conversations, it's not fitness stuff. It's life stuff, I guess. There's some fitness stuff in there, but it's a lot of just life stuff. Personal development, I guess, is the broad category that you could drop it under. So that's what I listen to. I listen to Rogan every now and then, depending on the guest. I mean, all podcasts are depending on the guests. I listen to Jordan Syatt and Mike Vacanti's podcast, the How to Be a Personal Trainer podcast. I think they have some great tips, and there's 2 guys that I really enjoy listening to and learning from and consider mentors to some extent. Not to some extent, to a large extent, actually. What are some of the other bigger ones that I listen to? Table Talk, Dave's Tate's podcast. Some very, more higher level, like fitness stuff. I'll listen to a bunch of podcasts of my friends. I'm not going to start listing people because I'm certainly going to forget some people, but I feel like I'm missing one. Let me just look on my phone here. What else do I listen to? The Founders podcast is one that I've started listening to recently, which has been interesting. Again, like more kind of, business-ish stuff. Lex Friedman every now and then. Honestly, I don't really listen to Huberman that much every now and then, but like very, very, I would say seldom. Yeah, those are kind of like the big ones. And then, a bunch of podcasts of like my friends and fellow colleagues. But if I start listing those out, it's going to be a long list, and I'm going to forget someone, and I don't want to feel like I'm leaving someone out of people that I actually know. So those are the things. YouTube channels. Like honestly, I don't watch as much YouTube as I probably should, just to like be up to date a little bit more on the way the platform is going and stuff like that. But like, I've really enjoyed a lot of like the RP stuff, Mike Israetel, Eugene Teo. I think his channel's great. Tanner Shuck, who's been a guest on the podcast a couple times and a good friend. I think his stuff is phenomenal. And like, although Tanner has a large audience, I think it's still criminally way too small for the quality and volume of content that he's putting out. I mean, he's doing exceptionally well, but I think it should be even way bigger. James Smith stuff on YouTube is always great. So those are the things that I listen to and kind of consume on a regular basis. And I don't know if that helps you, but obviously someone was asking, so there you have it. And the last question here: if you could pick one person to eat a meal with, who would it be? I'm going to attack this from a couple of different angles. So this question didn't necessarily specify like timelines or anything else. So I'll give a couple of answers, because I'll give a couple of answers given different scenarios. One is like my grandparents, and my grandparents are all still alive and well and doing their thing. But like, if I could, like, I mean, I can have a meal with them. This is not like outside of the realm of, I had a meal with them yesterday, but it's not outside the realm of possibility or some crazy thing. But it's like, and I say that to be, my grandparents, my parents, my fiance and soon to be wife, and my brothers and cousins and best friends and all those people. Like, those are the people that I would choose to have a meal with, basically over anyone else, and any one of them, insert here in timing and whatever. Because those are the most important people in my life, of course. And it becomes just like ever more apparent that is the case during the holidays. Christmas and New Year's just passed, and as the wedding is coming up, obviously there's been a ton of family events and a few weddings in my family in the past 2 years, and just the importance of family and those very special people in my life. So if assuming like, that any of those people, that is who I would have a meal with every single day of the week, every single meal of my life. I would want that. But I assume that this question means like not that. So I feel like it's necessary just to say that, because like these are the people that matter the most, and family and people that are close to you matters more than anything. And that's all you got. So definitely cherish those people. And like, if you're listening to this and for some reason haven't called your mom in a bit, or haven't called a buddy, or haven't called whoever, like, call those people, go out for coffee, get a lunch together, get a dinner, like do something, like keep those people close in your life. A historical person that I would not actually be able to have a meal with. I would love to have a meal with my uncle right over here, Alexander the Great, who is, no, he's my uncle. Fuck it. He's my uncle. He's born in the place that he's born in is like it's very close to the village in Greece where my grandparents are born. So I claim myself as a descendant of his. I would love to have a meal with him and sit down and Like, he was obviously one of the greatest conquerors of all time, and one of the most influential. If you actually read his biography and his story and what he did, and then you track what happened after that, the amount to which he changed the world is unbelievable. And it even makes certain, geopolitical things that are happening today, like, make sense as to why things are the way they are, which is extremely hard to wrap your head around when you realize that his reign, or whatever, was so short, and that he was relatively young. I believe he was like 33, 32, 33, something like that when he died, and he got sick and passed away. Before he was really done everything that he was trying to do, which is crazy that, like, he only really, ruled for a very short time and lived a very short life relatively, and was able to do so much. And so obviously, like, one of the most incredible, accomplished people in history, who I, all jokes aside, have a deep, personal connection to based on the place that we're from and the history that we share and all that stuff. So that would be that. And I've been to the site of Alexander's father, King Philip, his tomb, which was very a very powerful visit and place to see. Alexander's tomb, of course, is unknown where it is, although rumored to be in Egypt somewhere, but no one actually knows. Yeah, so super influential person in my life, and someone that I would I as I think about it, it's like, oh wow, if I was actually sitting in front of him, like, that would be the absolute wildest thing ever. Like, I'm not one for a celebrity. I wouldn't ever say, like, some actor or some singer or something like that. Like, that doesn't do anything for me. So that would be the person that I would choose. And if it was someone living, I mean, honestly, I haven't really thought about it. Like, someone living that's, like, not a family, or like someone that's kind of like out of unattainable, I'd probably I don't know, like, possibly Elon Musk, only because he's just, like, moving and shaking a lot right now, and, like, doing a lot of things, and, like, maybe he's the most, like, world changer person in our lifetime, maybe. But that's not super well thought out, and I have no other personal connection to him other than, like, oh, who's, like, the person that's, like, changing the world the most right now. Yeah, so Alexander the Great. Yeah, that would be the person that I would choose. But anyways, I think we've gotten, now the questions got progressively more off fitness. So, damn, episode 200. Here we go in the books. Thank you so much for being here. It's January, by the way. Hello. Time to grind. Okay. I'm struggling to get the words out right now because of how much this kind of means to me. It's like, it pains me to hear people year after year struggling with their fitness and health. What I mean by this is this: I meet people in person, people who I know and people who I don't know. And there's those people in your life that you see them, like, once a year, once every couple of years kind of thing. And every year it's the same story. Oh, I got to lose a few pounds. Oh, my knee hurts now. My back's not feeling that good, and I can't do this anymore. And oh, I wish I was as dedicated as you, and all that kind of stuff. Like, time is going by, and it's not slowing down, and things are not going to get better by magic. So it's January. We can use the whole, like, romantic aspect of New Year, New Me, New Year's resolutions, call it the winter arc. We go back to that one. Like, be romantic about your goals. It's okay. It's okay to lean into the story, and to quote a famous Joe Rogan video from a while ago, but it's like, be the hero of your own movie. Like, if you were a movie, if your life was a movie and you were the superhero of that movie and you were the main character, what would that guy or girl, what would they be doing right now? Would they be scrolling endlessly, doom scrolling stupid videos on their phone? Or would they be getting in the gym, think of the Rocky training montage and like, working on their business and working on themselves and working on their relationships and working on their fitness and their health. Like, what would they be doing? I promise you it's not doom scrolling and wasting their life away. So get fired up, get romantic, get excited. January's the time. I'm accepting new coaching clients right now for January. As always, fired up, help out with your own life, and let's go. Make 2025 the year. This is the one. I don't know what happened to you. I will know when we talk. I don't know what your story is. I will know it later. But this is the year. Let's go. Okay? Send me a message. There's free stuff in the description of the episode. Protein cheat sheet, free workout program that you can just take that and run with it. It's honestly better than most people's paid stuff. I will be coming out with like a workout program that you can purchase. It's like a 3-month training program, more designed at building muscle and leaning, kind of like a hybrid-ish style. That'll be very soon. But one-on-one coaching, that's the thing. If the things you've been doing haven't been working, well, obviously we got to try something different. And so let's figure it out. Let's cut the crap. Let me do the thinking for you so that you can just do the execution, because that's the hard part. I'll hold you accountable. We'll talk every single day, iron out all the nicks and knacks and everything that needs to be done. It's not rocket science, but it is difficult to navigate those waters by yourself and then actually do the things and carry them out. So to stick to your word, you need someone else to help you get there. You need someone else to help you figure out what that thing is and then execute on those principles and on those daily actions. So send me a message. Let's get it going. That's that. 200 episodes. Thank you so much for being here. I very extremely appreciate you being here. And can't wait for the next 200. So leave a review, send the episode to a friend, send the pod to a friend, and help this whole thing grow. That's that. Go outside. Be a good person. See you soon.